As an Antipodean, how big is a billion?
No, I'm not even going to go there, man.
Well, what were you taught? What were you taught at school?
Okay, so there's basically two ways of interpreting what a billion is. There's the correct English way, and there's the incorrect American way.
I think I was taught a billion is 1,000 million.
Right, exactly. Now that's what I was taught at school as well, although in Britain the older generation would say a billion is not 1,000 million, they would say it was a million.
There's a beautiful mathematical logic to the old way of doing it, which, you know, I just don't see in the new way.
If we ask our viewers, I reckon about half of them will answer a billion has 9 zeros, that's 1,000 million. And I reckon the rest of them will say a billion has 12 zeros, which is a million. And it depends on how old you are and where in the world you live. Let's be honest, real mathematicians and real scientists, if they've got a large number, they're not really going to use billions and trillions. They actually use standard form. So if I want to say something with 27 zeros, you'd write, you know, something like this. You know, you'd be 5 times 10 to the 27. But if you're reading articles in the newspapers, on, you know, BBC website, they're going to use words like billions and trillions. Now, there is a dispute. There are two systems. There's the short system and the long system. So let's have a look at the short system first. So the short system is based on powers of 1,000. Let's start off with the number 1. Now, it is a power of 1,000. It's 1,000 to the power 0. So that's 1. What's the next step up? Well, you get 1,000, don't you? That is 1,000 to the power 1. That's 3 zeros. I'll put that over here. We've got 3 zeros there. What's the next step up? It's a million. Right, let's do a million. 1,000 squared. That's 6 zeros. We've got 6 zeros. What's next up after that? Well, in the short system, the next one is a billion. So a billion, that's 1,000 cubed, and that's 10 to the power 9, 9 zeros. After that, you get a trillion, which is 1,000 to the power 4, and that's 10 to the power 12, that's 12 zeros. And we can keep going after that. So let's see, million, billion, trillion. The next one is quad, quintillion, a sextillion, septillion. This is what America uses, and it's what Britain uses, and it's what the English-speaking world now uses. Britain adopted this officially, the government officially adopted the short system in 1974. So there is a generation gap for people who are sort of used to the long system.
You are aware that the UK has adopted 10 to the 9?
Yeah, you know, the UK's been on the slide for a while, right? So they should have stuck to their guns, because the 10 to the 12 versions makes loads more sense.
The thing that annoys me with this, though, is you see, so bi means 2, like bicycle, but it's not 1,000 to the power 2, it's 1,000 to the power 3. It's horrible, isn't it?
Or maybe it's just someone wanted to say, oh, we can say a billion, right? We can say someone's a billionaire, and we can say it more quickly, but if we use this different definition of a billion. But, you know.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible. Trillion, which should be a 3 then, is 1,000 to the power 4. Not very nice. Because, if you ask me, the long system is more logical.
I can't understand it. I suspect somebody, could be wrong about this, but I expect somebody just got it wrong, and it sort of caught on.
So the long system is used by most of continental Europe and the non-English speaking world. And it's based on powers of 1 million. So let's start off with, in the same place we started before, with the number 1. That is a million to the power 0. So same as before. The next power is going to be here, a million. So that's a million. Let's write it down to the power of 1. Now the next power of a million will be, and in the long system, it is called a billion, which is 1 million squared. It is a bi-million, and that's where the word billion comes from. So it's a million to the power 2. So let's join those up. So 1 is 1, that's fine. Million and million are the same. But here, 12 zeros was called, in the short system, a trillion. I actually prefer billion in the long system. The next power up is now called a trillion. A tri-million. It's a million cubed. 3 powers of a million. So that would line up with what's called a quintillion.
I always thought the only dispute was between a billion, but they all fall out.
They all fall out of order. Yeah, absolutely right. The long system, though, is more logical. The naming of the numbers are more logical. Billion, trillion has meaning, whereas they lose their meaning in the short system.
Okay, and you can carry on like this. A quadrillion, okay? A quadrillion. I mean, I could go on for a long time with this, Brady, if you want me to. It is 1 million. What is it? 1 million. Well, quad is 4. 1 million to the 4. Okay, and let's you can really extend it. Let's go right the way down. Okay, what's a centillion? According to this logic, 1 centillion. Okay, well, cent. So that's 1 million to the power of 100. Okay, which is 10 to the 600. So that's, incidentally, is if you do it that way, is bigger than a Google.
We do have some gaps now. It might be useful to have a name for these gaps. It might be useful to have a name for 1,000 million. We don't seem to have one now. Well, we do. The name for 1,000 million in the long system, and I love this word, it's called a millyard. A millyard, that's 1,000 million. It's fallen out of favour, that word. It's still used, I think, in continental Europe, but in Britain, when we use the long system, it kind of fell out of favour. I think it's a great word. I want to bring back the millyard.
So what have we got? Have we also got a billiard?
Exactly. We've got a billiard right there. That's called a billiard, like a posh person playing snooker. Yeah, a billiard. In the financial world, they actually have a term called a yard, and it actually comes from the word millyard. And it means 1,000 million. And they used the word yard instead of saying billion or 1,000 million because it's unambiguous.
This is great. Why have we gone to this silly system that makes has no mathematical logic to it, which is just because somebody didn't really understand numbers that it got created. And we should have gone back to the old English way. And I think to celebrate the Queen's 60th Jubilee, this is what we should do. We should all go back to the old English way of writing numbers.
I prefer the long system, but I won't be using it. I won't be using the long system. I'll be using the short system. It's the standard in the English-speaking world. Asia don't really use these systems. They have their own systems. Countries like Canada, bilingual countries, even more confusing, will use both, one for each language. So they'll be using short system in one language and the long system in the other. Right, you're shaking your head like that's not true.
No, I believe you. It's just
you're amazed, aren't you? Imagine. But the Greeks have an interesting system because what they're doing...
They need it, the amount of money they owe.
Oh, don't get me started, right. They don't use the word million. Here's an interesting story as well. Million means large thousand. Mil means thousand. Million means a large thousand. Now, what the Greeks use is a word called, I'll put it here, myriad. Now, myriad in English means many, uncountably many, lots. It actually originally means 10,000. Myriad means 10,000. So instead of million, they don't say million, they call that 100 myriad. And the Greeks use the long system, but instead of million, they have this word, 100 myriad. So they'll now have not a bi million, not a billion, but a bi 100 myriad.
Oh, it just annoys me. I just think it's rubbish, the way everyone started to do it. It makes no sense. At least I can't see the sense in it. And the other one is just so